Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this one, I wanted to really quickly show you my Cattleya George King Serendipity. This is a hybrid that probably needs no introduction, and you can probably find a lot of videos about it online. But for what's it worth, here's mine. This is a really gorgeous, really typical, like quintessential Cattleya hybrid. If you were to have any, I would recommend this one. But before I go into the flowers, let me show you the plant overall, because a lot of times you feel like people take pictures on magazines online, they only show you the flower, you have no idea what a plant looks overall. I moved this plant again. It was sitting in a dark box for 3 weeks in the peak summer from the Northeast to Arizona. So it's been battered a little bit over the past year, and you can also see some spider mite damage. And this new growth, actually, when I bought it last year, I think this was the growth it was growing last year. And then it put out that big one that has the spider mite damage, and that had the first sheath. I think this is F1 Mary clone, if I'm not mistaken. That had the sheath that dried up and nothing came out of it. And the next pseudobulb was growing when it was sitting in the dark box for like 3 weeks. And that had a sheath that dried up. I was really worried it would not do anything, but here's a flower. And then it has grown. There's another new growth that hopefully will flower again this winter. But overall, this plant is a very robust, and dare I say, very easy to grow Cattleya. But it is big, and it is quite heavy. Like this might This is just a plastic pot with bark in it, and when it's not wet, sometimes it just flops over. So it's not a small plant. It's probably not the biggest either, but it's not a small windowsill Cattleya. And look how flat the flower is on the side. And I know, like personally, I don't really care about being flat that much, but I can appreciate it when the flower is really well-rounded. And probably because of the stress, it only had one bloom on this spike. And you can also see this pseudobulb is a little bit discolored, and not as big as the one before it. So it was definitely stressed out. But again, that's totally expected. Okay, and back to the flower. This is a really nice one, and it's always really, it's very, I would say, it's always predictably relatively well formed, and like the color really holds true. And this is the second day since opening, and it's about as big as, it's wider than my palm. But yesterday when it first fully opened, I could also already detect some citrusy scent, probably from its Digbyana ancestry. And today the more of the classic typical Cattleya floral scent really kicked in. But look at it, it's so beautiful. And the color is like peach, apricot, and as it goes, it will transition a little bit towards yellowish. And I see on the petals there were like a little bit unevenness. I don't know what that is. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with it, given what it has gone through this year. From being repotted and from being transported in the dark in the heat, and that's probably that also like made it susceptible for those spider mite damage. But yeah, the flower is really nice. You can probably see some of the mossy eye parent in it, and of course the veining in the lip from Digbyana, and those 2 yellow throat eyes, maybe from Waxwixii eye, I don't know. But it smells really good too. This is just like the quintessential Cattleya anyone needs to have. Did I say that already? If I did, it is a quintessential Cattleya that everyone should have. It's so nice. Usually it flowers more than 1 flower per spike, probably, in the magnitude of a couple to a few. And personally, I haven't seen it bloom more than like 4-ish flowers per spike, but it is a big flower. So again, it's nice. You don't really need that like 12 of those on the same spike. That would be crazy. And imagine the stress the plant has to go through to put out that. So gorgeous flower, gorgeous plant. One thing I do want to mention is that I first read about this plant on the AOS website. It says something about it flowers several times a year. I was like, ooh, that sounds like it's free blooming every time pseudobulb matures. And that is so not the case. From what I read, from what I hear from other people in my own case, and I think it's slightly, to me, misleading, but maybe because the climate or the culture is a little bit different where the author is, who wrote that article. But in my case, it usually blooms around Thanksgiving, and it's like clockwork. Right now is about Thanksgiving, and people say that the second flower usually comes up over Christmas. So we shall see about that one. But again, like this year, it's been a really awful year for those plants. So if it doesn't flower again, that's fine. And this one is so gorgeous, and it smells wonderfully delicious. It's not those pungent smells that just punches through. It's like one of those really nice and just, it smells so good. You just have to grow it and smell it yourself. So with that, I'll end the video here. And well, I guess before I end the video, last shot of this beautiful, gorgeous, big, floofy unifolia Cattleya. And I do want to mention my collection is somewhat recovered a little bit. Of course, right now it's the winter, and this curtain has a lot of hot water residuals. But the Erie color there is having a having a sheath, so hopefully that one will flower. And the Cebulifolia, who also went through a harsh transport, is flowering a little bit, and a couple of others that are either pushing things out or in active new growth. Yeah, so I think finally they really kind of started to recuperate from the trouble. Okay, well, last shot. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you don't already have it, grab a George King Serendipity. It is gorgeous. All right. And for the folks in the US, happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe, fun holiday, and stay warm, and I'll see you next time.